Get on all fours for me. Dr. Adrian Kane's voice was clinical, professional, detached. But the way my heart slammed against my ribcage was anything but professional. I was lying on the examination table in his private clinic, my lower back screaming in pain from the injury I'd sustained during last week's basketball game. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across his perfectly sculpted face. This was supposed to be a routine sports medicine appointment. This was supposed to be easy. It wasn't easy. Nothing about Adrian Kane had ever been easy for me. Not since the moment we'd met 3 years ago at State University's orientation week. Back then, he was the golden boy pre-med student who'd volunteered to show freshmen around campus. I was the scholarship kid from nowhere, trying to figure out how to belong. He'd smiled at me that first day, extended his hand and said, "You look lost. Want me to show you where the good coffee is?" That smile had undone me completely. Now, 3 years later, he was Dr. Kan youngest sports medicine resident at Harbor General Hospital with his own growing private practice on the side. And I was still Ethan Cross, his best friend. The guy who'd sat beside him through countless late-night study sessions, celebrated every one of his achievements, and harbored a secret so heavy it felt like drowning every single day. I was desperately, hopelessly in love with him. Ethan. Adrian's voice pulled me back to the present. Did you hear me? I need you on all fours so I can properly assess your lower back alignment. The x-rays show some inflammation around your L4 and L5 vertebrae. Right, professional? Medical. I swallowed hard and slowly maneuvered myself onto my hands and knees on the padded table. Trying to ignore the way my hands trembled slightly, the position felt vulnerable, exposed, even though I was fully clothed in my gym shorts and t-shirt. Adrian moved closer, and I could smell his call on something, woodsy and clean that I'd memorized years ago. "I'm going to touch your back now," he said softly. "Tell me if anything hurts." His hands were warm through my shirt as they pressed along my spine, professional and methodical. But my body didn't care about professionalism. Every point of contact sent electricity racing through my nervous system. I closed my eyes, trying to focus on anything else, the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic outside, the clinical smell of antiseptic. Does this hurt? His fingers pressed into a particularly tender spot, and I hissed through my teeth. "Yeah, right there, okay? I'm going to need you to arch your back slightly, then round it, like a cat-cow stretch." Slowly. I followed his instructions, acutely aware of his hands still resting lightly on my lower back, guiding the movement. This was torture. Beautiful, exquisite torture. How many times had I imagined his hands on me? But never like this. Never in a sterile exam room, under fluorescent lights. Never with this professional distance between us. "Good," he murmured. Again, slower this time. I repeated the motion, and something in my back cracked audibly. Adrian's hands stilled. How did that feel? Better, actually. Less pressure. Excellent. You can sit up now. I shifted carefully back into a sitting position on the edge of the exam table, and found Adrian standing closer than I expected. Close enough that I could see the faint stubble along his jaw, the tiny flecks of gold in his hazel eyes. Close enough that if I leaned forward just a few inches, I could know. "Stop." "So," I asked, my voice rougher than intended. "What's the verdict, Doc?" Adrian stepped back, creating distance, and I told myself I didn't feel the loss of his proximity like a physical ache. He pulled off his latex gloves and tossed them in the medical waste bin, then turned back to me with his professional face firmly in place. Severe muscle strain and inflammation. No structural damage, which is good news. But you're going to need physical therapy, anti-inflammatories, and absolutely no basketball for at least 3 weeks. I groaned. "Adrian, the championship tournament is in 5 weeks. "I can't. You can and you will," he interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. "Unless you want to cause permanent damage and end your athletic career before it even really begins." He crossed his arms over his chest, and I recognized that stubborn set to his jaw. I'd seen it countless times over the years, usually when he was trying to convince me to take better care of myself. "Fine," I muttered. 3 weeks. Good. His expression softened slightly. I'll prescribe you some anti-inflammatories and muscle relaxants. And I want to see you twice a week for physical therapy sessions. Here, after hours, so we can work around your class schedule. My heart did something complicated in my chest. You're going to do my PT yourself? Of course I am. He frowned slightly as if the question surprised him. You're my best friend, Ethan. I'm not handing you off to some random therapist who doesn't know your medical history or your body's quirks. God, if only he knew how much those words affected me. If only he understood that the biggest quirk my body had was the way it responded to his mere presence. The way every cell seemed to orient toward him like flowers turning toward the sun. Adrian, I started, not sure what I was going to say, but needing to say something. Thank you for squeezing me in today. I know you're insanely busy, he smiled then, one of his rare, genuine smiles that transformed his entire face. I'm never too busy for you. You know that. The words hung in the air between us, heavier than they should have been. I wanted to read meaning into them, wanted to believe there was something more than friendship in the way his eyes lingered on mine. But I'd spent 3 years hoping for signs that weren't there, imagining significance in every casual touch and kind word. Adrian was straight. He'd dated women throughout college, beautiful, accomplished women who made sense in his world of ambition and achievement. The last one, Melissa, had been particularly serious. They'd been together for almost a year before breaking up 6 months ago. He'd been devastated. Had shown up at my apartment at 2 a.m. with a bottle of whiskey and red-rimmed eyes. I'd held him while he cried, stroked his hair, told him he deserved better. And I'd hated myself for the small, selfish part of me that had been relieved when they ended. Hated myself for being in love with someone who could never love me back, not in the way I needed. Earth to Ethan. Adrian waved a hand in front of my face, pulling me from my thoughts. You zoned out there. Are you okay? Any dizziness? Nausea? No, I'm fine. Just tired. He studied me with those perceptive eyes that always seemed to see too much. Have you been sleeping? Define sleeping, Ethan. I'm fine, Adrian. Really. I slid off the exam table, wincing slightly as my back protested the movement. Just stressed about midterms and the tournament and everything. He didn't look convinced, but he let it go. All right, but I want you to actually take the muscle relaxants I'm prescribing, especially at night. They'll help you sleep and give your back a chance to heal. Yes, doctor, I said with mock solemnity. He rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. Get dressed and meet me out front. I'll write up your prescription and schedule your PT sessions. After he left the room, I let out a long breath and dropped my head into my hands. This was going to be impossible. Twice weekly sessions with Adrian, his hands on my body, alone in this clinic after hours. How was I supposed to survive that? How was I supposed to keep my feelings locked down when every touch, every moment of proximity made me want to confess everything? I stood and pulled on my jacket, catching sight of myself in the small mirror on the wall. I looked tired, stressed, older than my 21 years. My dark hair was messy, my blue eyes shadowed. When had I stopped taking care of myself? When had loving Adrian become so consuming that I'd lost track of everything else? When I made it out to the reception area, Adrian was leaning against the front desk, typing something into his tablet. The clinic was empty, his receptionist had left for the day. We were completely alone. Okay, he said without looking up. I've got you scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday evenings at 7. Does that work? Yeah, that's perfect. He finally looked up, and something in his expression made my breath catch. There was a softness there, a warmth that seemed almost tender. But before I could analyze it, he blinked and it was gone, replaced by his usual professional demeanor. Good. I'll see you Tuesday then. He handed me a printed prescription. And Ethan, please actually rest. No pickup games, no going to the gym to just shoot around. Your body needs time to heal. I'll rest, I promised. I'll believe it when I see it, he muttered. But there was affection in his voice. We walked out together, and he locked up the clinic behind us. The parking lot was nearly empty in the fading evening light. Just my beat-up Honda and his sleek black BMW. For a moment, we stood there in the cool autumn air. neither of us moving toward our cars. Do you want to grab dinner? Adrian asked suddenly. There's that Thai place you like around the corner. My treat. I should have said no. Should have created distance, protected my heart. But I'd never been able to say no to him. Sure, that sounds great. The restaurant was warm and fragrant, filled with the smell of lemongrass and coconut curry. We slid into our usual booth in the back corner, and within minutes, the server brought us our regular orders without us having to ask. We'd been coming here together for years, every Thursday night after Adrian's late shift at the hospital. We'd been coming here together for years, every Thursday night after Adrian's late shift at the hospital. It was our tradition, our sacred time. So, Adrian said after we'd both taken a few bites, "Tell me what's really going on. And don't say you're fine." I set down my fork and met his eyes. What do you mean? I mean, you've lost weight. You have dark circles under your eyes. You're more distracted than usual. Something's wrong, and I want to know what it is. The concern in his voice made my chest ache. This was the thing about Adrian beneath the professional exterior. Beneath the ambition and drive, he cared so deeply about the people in his life. He noticed things. He paid attention. It's nothing serious, I said carefully. Just trying to figure some things out. What things? How could I answer that? How could I tell him that I was trying to figure out how to stop loving him? How to move on from a future that could never exist? Just life stuff, I said vaguely. You know how it is senior year. Everyone's making plans, figuring out what comes next. It's overwhelming. Adrian leaned back in the booth, studying me. Have you thought about what you want to do after graduation? Not really. Maybe grad school? I don't know. The truth was I'd been so focused on surviving each day, on maintaining our friendship while hiding my feelings, that I hadn't let myself think too far ahead. You should apply to the sports psychology program at Harbor University, Adrian said. It's top-ranked, and with your background in athletics and your psych degree, you'd be perfect for it. That's actually not a bad idea. Plus, he continued, something flickering in his eyes, you'd be staying local, in the city. My heart stuttered. Does that matter to you? Of course it matters to me. Said it like it was obvious. Like the thought of me leaving was unacceptable. You're my best friend, Ethan. I don't want you moving across the country. Best friend, right? I picked up my water glass just to have something to do with my hands. What about you? I asked, changing the subject. Any big plans I should know about? Adrian's expression shifted, became more guarded. Actually, there is something I've been meaning to talk to you about. My stomach dropped. Okay? Dr. Morrison offered me a position. A real one. Partnership track at the Sports Medicine Center. Adrian, that's amazing. And it was. It was everything he'd been working toward. So why did he look so conflicted? It is, he agreed. But there's a catch. They want me to relocate to their facility in Boston. It's an incredible opportunity working with Olympic-level athletes, cutting-edge research, the whole package. Boston. 3,000 miles away. The room suddenly felt too small, too hot. I forced myself to smile, to act like my world wasn't crumbling. When would you leave? They want me to start in January. After the holidays. 3 months. I had 3 months left with him, and then he'd be gone. The realization hit me like a physical blow. You have to take it, I heard myself say. It's an incredible opportunity. You'd be insane to pass it up. I haven't decided yet. What's there to decide? This is your dream, Adrian. He looked at me intently, and I couldn't read the expression on his face. Some things are more important than career opportunities. Like what? He trailed off, seeming to struggle with something. Like the life I've built here. My practice? My friends? You. The way he said, you separate from friends, weighted with something I couldn't identify, made my pulse race. I'll still be here, I said quietly, and we can visit. Video chat. Whatever. It won't be the same. No, I agreed. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go. Adrian was quiet for a long moment, pushing food around his plate. I don't know what to do, he finally admitted. Every logical part of me says I should take the position. It's the smart move career-wise. But something keeps holding me back. What? He looked up at me, and there was something raw in his eyes, something vulnerable that I'd rarely seen. I don't want to leave you. My throat tightened. Adrian. I know it sounds ridiculous, he continued. You're 21. You don't need me hanging around like some overbearing older brother. You'll make new friends, start your own career, but the thought of not seeing you every week, of not being able to grab dinner like this, or just be in your life, it's harder than I expected. Every word felt like a knife to the heart. Because he cared. It could hear it in his voice, see it in his expression, but he cared as a friend, as someone who'd miss my presence in his life but would ultimately move on, find new friends, maybe even find someone to love in Boston. I'll miss you too, I managed. But you have to do what's right for your career. I'll be okay. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. We finished dinner in relative silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. When Adrian dropped me off at my apartment later, he pulled me into a hug before I could get out of the car. Thank you, he murmured against my shoulder, for always supporting me. Even when it's hard, I hugged him back, allowing myself just this moment to hold him close, to breathe in his scent, to pretend that he was mine to keep. Always, I whispered, when I finally pulled away and headed inside. I didn't let myself look back. If I had, he would have seen the tears streaming down my face. The next few days passed in a blur. I threw myself into schoolwork, trying not to think about Adrian's impending move to Boston. Trying not to count down the weeks until he'd be gone from my life in any meaningful way. Tuesday evening arrived too quickly. I showed up at Adrian's clinic at 7 sharp, my stomach in knots. The reception area was dark except for a single lamp, and I could see light spilling from one of the treatment rooms in the back. Ethan. Adrian's voice called out, "Come on back." Room 3. I found him setting up the treatment table with fresh sheets. He'd changed out of his usual button-down and slacks into athletic wear fitted black, workout pants and a gray t-shirt that clung to his shoulders and chest in ways that should be illegal. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd run his hands through it repeatedly. "Hey," I said, my voice coming out rougher than intended. He looked up and smiled. "Hey yourself. How's the back been?" "Better with the muscle relaxants. I've actually been sleeping." "Good, that's good." He gestured to the table. "All right, let's see where we're at." Shirt off, face down on the table. My hands shook slightly as I pulled my t-shirt over my head. This was fine. This was professional. I'd been shirtless around Adrian before, at the beach, at the gym, countless times over the years. It didn't mean anything, except it did, because now his hands would be on my bare skin, working the muscles of my back, and I'd have to lie there and pretend it didn't affect me. I stretched out on my stomach, resting my face in the padded cradle. The table was warm, comfortable. I tried to relax. "I'm going to start with some basic assessment," Adrian said from somewhere above me. "Then we'll move into massage and stretching. Tell me if anything is too painful." The first touch of his hands on my back made me suck in a breath. They were slicked with massage oil, warm and firm, as they began to work along my spine. Too much pressure? He asked immediately. "No, it's good." He worked in silence for a few minutes, his hands moving with the confidence of someone who'd done this thousands of times. But there was something different about the way he touched me. Something almost reverent in the careful way he worked each muscle group. Or maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I wanted it to mean something so badly that I was inventing significance where none existed. "Your shoulders are incredibly tense," he murmured. "When was the last time you had a proper massage?" "I don't know." "Never? Never?" He sounded genuinely shocked. "Ethan, you're an athlete. You should be getting regular body work." "I'll add it to the list of things I can't afford," I said dryly. His hands stilled on my shoulders. "I would have done this for you. Anytime. All you had to do was ask. I didn't want to impose. You're my best friend. It's not an imposition." His hands resumed their movement, working into a particularly tight spot near my shoulder blade. "From now on, if you need anything at all, you ask me. Understood?" The intensity in his voice made something warm unfurl in my chest. "Understood." We fell into silence again. but it was different now, charged with something unspoken. His hands moved lower, working the muscles along my spine with steady, skilled pressure. Every touch sent waves of sensation through me, part pain, as he worked out the tension, part something else entirely. "The inflammation has definitely decreased," he said after a while. "The medication is working. But we need to rebuild your core strength and flexibility to prevent this from happening again." "What does that involve?" "Lots of stretching. Some resistance work. I'll design a program for you." His hands moved to my lower back, right where the injury was worst, and I couldn't suppress a small groan as he worked a particularly tight spot. "Sorry," he said quickly. "Too much?" "No. God, no. That's actually perfect." I felt, rather than saw him lean closer. "You're doing great. Just try to relax into it." Relax. Right, like that was possible when every nerve ending in my body was hyper-aware of his proximity. His touch, the warmth of his breath against my skin. His hands worked lower, to the band of my athletic shorts, and then stopped. "I need to work your glutes and hip flexors. Is that okay?" "Yeah, whatever you need to do." His touch became more clinical as he worked the muscles of my hips and upper thighs, but it didn't matter. My body didn't care about clinical professionalism. My body just knew that Adrian Kane was touching me, and every point of contact felt like fire. "Right," he said finally. "Flip over. We need to stretch out your hip flexors and work on your core engagement." I turned onto my back carefully, acutely aware that I was shirtless and somewhat vulnerable on the table. Adrian's eyes roamed over me, professional assessment, checking for any asymmetry or issues. But for just a second, I could have sworn his gaze lingered on my chest, my stomach, before quickly moving away. "Okay," he said, his voice slightly rougher. "I'm going to lift your leg and take it through some range of motion exercises. Let me know if anything hurts." He grasped my ankle and slowly raised my leg, bending it at the knee and bringing it toward my chest. The stretch pulled at my lower back and hip. Intense but good.
"How's that?"
he asked. "Good. Really good." He held the stretch for 30 seconds, and I found myself staring up at his face. He was completely focused on what he was doing, a small furrow of concentration between his brows. I could see the pulse beating in his throat, the way his jaw tightened as he carefully controlled the movement. God, he was beautiful, and I was so completely screwed. "The leg," he murmured. Gently lowering my leg and moving to the other side, we went through a series of stretches, each one bringing him closer, making the air between us feel thicker, heavier. At one point, he had to lean over me to properly support my leg, and his face was inches from mine. I could see the individual flecks of gold in his eyes, could count his eyelashes if I wanted to. "Ethan." His voice was soft, questioning. "Yeah. You're holding your breath. Breathe." I let out the breath I hadn't realized I was holding, and with it, Adrian's scent washed over me, cologne and clean sweat, and something uniquely him. "Sorry," I managed. "Don't be." His eyes met mine, held for a beat too long. Then he blinked and stepped back. "We're done for today. That was a good first session." I sat up slowly, reaching for my shirt. My skin felt overly sensitive, every nerve ending still humming from his touch. "Same time Thursday?" I asked. "Yeah. And I want you doing the stretches I showed you at home." "Twice a day." "Yes, doctor." We smiled at that, and the warmth in his expression made my heart ache. "Get dressed. I'll walk you out." While I pulled on my shirt, Adrian cleaned up the treatment room, wiping down the table and putting away the massage oil. We walked out together into the cool night air, and again we found ourselves standing in the parking lot, neither quite ready to leave. "Thanks for tonight," I said. "My back already feels better."
Ah!
"Good. We'll keep building on it." He paused, seeming to wrestle with something. "Ethan, about Boston. You don't have to explain anything to me, Adrian. It's your decision." I know, but his phone buzzed, interrupting him. He glanced at it and frowned. "Sorry, I have to take this." "It's the hospital. Go ahead." He answered the call, stepping a few feet away. I watched him talk, the way his expression shifted from concerned to professional. The way he ran his hand through his hair to tell that he was stressed. When he hung up, he looked apologetic. I have to go in. One of my post-op patients is having complications. It's fine. Go. Do what you need to do. Thursday. He confirmed. Thursday, I agreed. I watched him drive away, his taillights disappearing into the night. Then I got in my own car and just sat there for a long moment, my hands gripping the steering wheel. 3 months. I had 3 months left before he moved to Boston, and I lost him forever. 3 months to figure out how to let go of something I'd never really had to begin with. The thought was unbearable. Over the next 2 weeks, our Tuesday and Thursday sessions became the highlight of my existence and my own personal torture, all wrapped into one. Each session followed the same pattern: Adrian's skilled hands working the muscles of my back. Careful stretches that required him to be close, to touch me, to hold me in ways that felt intimate even though they were purely therapeutic. My back was genuinely getting better. The pain had decreased significantly. My range of motion was improving, and I was sleeping better than I had in months. But emotionally, I was falling apart, because every session made it harder to maintain my carefully constructed walls. Every casual touch, every moment of prolonged eye contact. Every time Adrian smiled at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. It all chipped away at my resolve to keep my feelings hidden. And then there were the moments that felt like more than friendship. Moments that made me question everything I thought I knew. Like the Thursday evening when I showed up for my session to find Adrian looking exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes and tension radiating from every line of his body. Rough day? I asked as I entered the treatment room. He ran a hand through his hair, making it stand up in messy spikes. Rough week. I've been covering extra shifts at the hospital, and Dr. Morrison keeps calling about the Boston position. She wants an answer by the end of the month. That's soon. Yeah. He looked at me, and there was something almost desperate in his eyes. I still don't know what to do. Talk to me, I said gently. What's holding you back? He was quiet for a long moment, just looking at me. Then he said, what if I'm making a mistake? What if I take this job and realize I've left behind everything that actually matters? Like what? Like, he gestured vaguely. My practice here. The life I've built. The people I care about. Adrian, the people who care about you want you to succeed. Want you to be happy? If Boston makes you happy, that's the thing. He stepped closer, and suddenly the space between us felt charged. I don't know if it will make me happy. I don't know if anything will make me happy. If he stopped himself, seeming to wrestle with something. If what? My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. But whatever he'd been about to say, he swallowed it back. Nothing. Let's get started on your session. Up on the table, I wanted to push, to demand he finish that thought, but I didn't. I just stripped off my shirt and laid down on the table, wondering what he'd almost said. His hands on my back that night were different, less clinical, more intense. He worked each muscle with focused attention, his breathing slightly uneven. At one point, his fingers lingered on my shoulder blade, tracing the edge of the bone in a way that felt more like a caress than physical therapy. Adrian, I said softly. Yeah. Are you okay? His hands stilled. I don't know, he admitted. I feel like everything's changing, and I don't know how to stop it. Change isn't always bad. Tell me that in 3 months when I'm in Boston and you're here and everything's different. Raw honesty in his voice made my chest ache. I wanted to turn over, to look at him, to say all the things I'd been holding back. But I stayed still, afraid that any movement would shatter whatever fragile thing was building between us. We'll figure it out, I said instead. We always do. He didn't respond, just resumed working my back with those careful, skilled hands. But something had shifted. I could feel it in the air between us, heavy and electric and frightening, when he helped me through the stretches that night. His touch lingered longer than necessary. When I sat up after the session, I found him standing closer than professional distance required. Our eyes met, held. And for a breathless moment, I thought he might say something, do something, bridge the impossible gap between us. But then his phone buzzed with a message, and the moment shattered. Same time next week? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. Yeah, same time. I left that night feeling more confused than ever. Because either I was completely delusional and inventing meaning where none existed, or something was changing between us. Something significant and terrifying and impossible to name. The following Tuesday, arrived at the clinic to find Adrian waiting for me, with an unexpected announcement. Change of plans tonight, he said. We're not doing your session here. I blinked. Okay. I thought we could do it at my place instead. I have better equipment there for the core strengthening work we need to start incorporating. Plus, my hot tub will be good for your muscles after the session. His place. His apartment. Where we'd hung out countless times before, but never for a physical therapy session. Never when he'd be putting his hands all over me. Yeah, that sounds good. Great. Follow me over. Adrian's apartment was in a renovated warehouse building downtown, all exposed brick and high ceilings and modern fixtures. I'd always loved it here. The space felt like him somehow, sophisticated but warm. Carefully curated but comfortable, he'd set up a treatment table in his spacious living room, along with resistance bands, a stability ball, and other equipment I recognized from the clinic. This is quite a setup, I observed. I sometimes do sessions here for VIP clients, he explained. It's more private, more comfortable. I thought you might appreciate the change of scenery I do. Thanks. We went through our usual routine, him working the muscles of my back, taking me through careful stretches. But being in his personal space added a new dimension of intimacy. I could hear music playing softly from his bedroom. Could see his bookshelves lined with medical texts and mystery novels. Could smell coffee brewing in his kitchen. This wasn't the sterile environment of the clinic. This was his home, and he'd invited me into it for this. All right, he said, after working my back thoroughly. Now we're going to work on core strengthening. Sit up for me. He grabbed the stability ball and showed me a series of exercises designed to rebuild my core muscles. Some of them required him to spot me, to hold me steady with his hands on my waist or my shoulders. Each touch sent sparks through my system. Good, he murmured as I held a particularly difficult position, his hands steadying me, just like that. Hold it, and release. I collapsed forward, breathing hard, and found myself inches from his face. We both froze. Ethan, he said softly. Yeah, He seemed to struggle with something. You're doing really well. Your progress has been remarkable. That wasn't what he'd been about to say. I knew it wasn't, but I didn't push. I have a good teacher, I said instead. Something flickered in his eyes' heat. Maybe, or longing, or something else I couldn't identify. Then he pulled back, creating space between us. Go get changed and meet me on the balcony. The hot tub is already heated. I'd brought swim trunks at his suggestion, so I changed quickly in his bathroom. Try not to think too hard about the fact that I was about to be mostly naked in a hot tub with Adrian Kane when I stepped out onto his balcony. The evening air was cool and crisp. Adrian was already in the hot tub, just his head and shoulders visible above the bubbling water. He'd dimmed the lights, leaving just the soft glow from inside the apartment and the twinkling city lights spread out below us. Get in, he said. The heat is perfect for your muscles. I slipped into the water across from him, the heat immediately soothing the soreness from our workout. For a few minutes, we just sat in comfortable silence, letting the jets work their magic. This is nice, I said finally. Yeah. Adrian's eyes were on the city skyline, but there was a tension in his shoulders that had nothing to do with physical strain. Can I ask you something? Of course. Have you ever? Paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. Have you ever felt like you were standing at a crossroads and every path forward meant losing something important? Is this about Boston? Partly. He finally looked at me, and the vulnerability in his expression made my breath catch. But it's about more than that. It's about choices and timing and being brave enough to admit what you really want. My heart was hammering. What do you really want, Adrian? He held my gaze for a long moment, and I saw conflict war across his feature sphere, and longing, and something that looked almost like hope. I want. He started, then stopped. I want to not feel like I'm constantly holding something back. Like there's this thing I can't say, can't acknowledge, because once I do, everything changes. Every nerve in my body was screaming. Every instinct told me we were dancing around something huge, something that could either save me or destroy me. Maybe everything needs to change, I said quietly. Maybe. He moved then, shifted through the water until he was right beside me instead of across from me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. Ethan, I need to tell you something. Okay? The reason I haven't decided about Boston, the reason I keep hesitating, it's because of you. My breath stopped. What? Every time I try to imagine my life in Boston, I can't. Because you're not there. In a life without you in it, without our dinners and our sessions and just being able to see you, talk to you, be near you. It doesn't feel like a life I want. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I was hearing. I know that probably sounds ridiculous, he continued, his voice rough. You're 21. You have your whole life ahead of you. You don't need your best friend hanging around. Holding you back from you could never hold me back, I interrupted, finding my voice. Adrian, you're the person who's always pushed me forward, always believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Then why does it feel like if I go to Boston, I'm making the biggest mistake of my life? The question hung between us, heavy with meaning. And suddenly, I was done. Done hiding, done pretending, done protecting myself from the possibility of rejection. Because if there was even a chance of in the smallest possibility that he felt something too, I had to know. Adrian, I said, my voice shaking slightly, why does it feel like a mistake? He looked at me then, really looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my heart stop and restart in the same breath. Because he said softly, for 3 years I've been telling myself that what I feel for you is just friendship, that the way my heart races when you walk into a room is normal. That the fact that I can't stop thinking about you, can't imagine my life without you is just because you're my best friend. And now, I whispered, I'm starting to think I've been lying to myself. His hand moved through the water, coming to rest on my tentative questioning. Tell me to stop. Tell me I'm imagining things and I'll back off. I'll take the Boston job and we'll go back to how things were. But if you don't, if there's any chance you feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling, couldn't form words, could barely form thoughts. So instead I answered him the only way I could by reaching up and cupping his face in my hand, feeling the sharp line of his jaw against my palm, the slight stubble rough against my skin. I've been in love with you for 3 years, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Every day, every moment, completely and desperately in love with. You, the look on his face, shock and joy. And relief, and something that looked like wonder was something I would remember for the rest of my life. He breathed, and then he was kissing me. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if he was afraid I might disappear if he pushed too hard. But when I kissed him back, when I tangled my fingers in his wet hair and pulled him closer, something broke loose in both of us. His hands came up to frame my face, and the kiss deepened, became urgent and hungry and 3 years overdue. He tasted like coffee and mint and promise, and I couldn't get enough. I'd imagined this moment so many times. But the reality was overwhelming: the heat of his mouth, the strength of his hands, the small sounds he made against my lips. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I can't believe I almost let you go, he whispered. Almost convinced myself that I should take that job and leave you behind? You're not taking the job? God, no. Not if it means leaving you. His hands were still on my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones. These past few weeks, having you here twice a week, touching you, being close to you, it was torture. Wanting you and thinking I couldn't have you, can have me, I said, and the words came out more raw, more vulnerable than I'd intended. Adrian, you've always had me. I'm yours. I've been yours since the day we met. He kissed me again, softer this time, but no less intense. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. I don't know what I did to deserve you, he said, but I promise I'm going to spend every day making sure you never regret this. I could never regret this. Regret you. We stayed in the hot tub for another hour, mostly just holding each other, stealing kisses, murmuring confessions and promises against wet skin. Years of unspoken feelings poured out between us the moments we'd each thought we'd imagined something more. The jealousy we'd hidden, the ache of loving someone you thought you couldn't have. When did you know? I asked at one point. That you felt this way? Adrian was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. I think part of me always knew, but I was too scared to examine it too closely. I told myself it was just friendship, just caring about you. But then you got hurt, and the thought of not being able to take care of you, not being able to touch you and make sure you were okay. It made me realize this was so much more than friendship. And when you were talking about Boston, every time I tried to imagine it, I'd picture my life, their new colleagues, new patients, new city, and I'd feel nothing. No excitement, no anticipation. Because none of it mattered if you weren't there. He kissed my temple. You matter more than any career opportunity. More than anything. The words wrapped around my heart like a promise. Eventually, we got out of the hot tub. Both of us wrinkled from the water and giddy with the newness of everything. Adrian handed me a towel and led me back inside. Stay, he said softly. Tonight. We don't have to. I just want you here. Want to fall asleep with you and wake up with you and prove to myself this is real? It's real, I assured him. But yes, I'll stay. He lent me clothes, soft pajama pants, and a t-shirt that smelled like him. We curled up on his couch, my head on his chest, his arms wrapped around me. I can't stop touching you, he admitted, his hand running up and down my back. Is that okay? More than okay. I've been dreaming about this for so long. Tell me, he said. Tell me about your dreams. So I did. I told him about all the times I'd imagined us together. All the scenarios I'd played out in my head during sleepless nights. I told him about the ache of wanting him, the pain of thinking I could never have him, the loneliness of loving someone in secret, and he told me his own truth. About the gradual realization that his feelings weren't platonic. About the jealousy he'd felt whenever I'd mentioned other guys. About the way he'd sabotaged his own relationship with Melissa because she wasn't me. She knew, he said quietly. Melissa. Before we even broke up, she told me I was in love with you. I denied it, but she just looked at me with these sad, knowing eyes and said, when you figure it out, call me. I denied it, but she just looked at me with these sad, knowing eyes and said, when you figure it out, call me. I'll wish you happiness because you deserve it. But I can't compete with him. I'm sorry. Don't be. She was right. There's no competition. There's only ever been you. We talked until the early hours of morning, making up for 3 years of silence. And when we finally fell asleep, tangled together on his couch, I felt more at peace than I had in years. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through Adrian's floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee brewing. For a moment, I was disoriented, unsure where I was. Then memory flooded back, and with it, a surge of joy so intense it was almost painful. Last night had been real. Adrian loved me. He'd chosen me over his career opportunity in Boston. I found him in the kitchen. Already dressed in worn jeans and a soft sweater, his hair still damp from a shower. When he saw me, his entire face lit up. Morning, he said, crossing the space between us and pulling me into a kiss that made my toes curl. Morning, I breathed when we broke apart. Coffee. Breakfast. I make a mean omelet. Coffee would be perfect. We moved around his kitchen together with an ease that came from years of friendship. But now everything felt different, charged with new meaning. He'd brush past me, and his hand would find my waist. I'd reach for a mug and he'd lean in to kiss my shoulder. I can't stop touching you, he admitted again, sounding almost sheepish. Is this too much? Am I being too? No? I turned in his arms, wrapping mine around his neck. Touch me as much as you want. I've been starving for this. His eyes darkened. So have I. We barely made it through breakfast, too distracted by each other to do more than pick at the omelets he'd made. Eventually, we gave up and moved back to the couch, where we spent the morning wrapped around each other, talking and kissing and exploring this new territory between us. So what happens now? I asked at one point, my head resting in his lap while he played with my hair. What do you want to happen? I want this. Us. I want to be with you. Then that's what we'll do. He leaned down and kissed me, soft and sweet. We'll take it slow, figure things out together. I'll call Dr. Morrison today and formally decline the Boston position. Are you sure? I don't want you to resent me someday for holding you back from stop, he interrupted gently. You're not holding me back from anything. You're my future, Ethan. Everything else is just details. The conviction in his voice made my eyes sting with tears. I love you, I said. I know I said it last night, but I need you to hear it again. I love you so much. I love you too, said it like a vow. And I'm going to spend every day showing you exactly how much. We spent the entire day together, leaving his apartment only to grab lunch from the Thai restaurant down the street. We walked through the city hand in hand, and with every step, I felt lighter, freer. The weight I'd been carrying for 3 years, the secret of my feelings, the certainty that they'd never be returned, had lifted, leaving me almost dizzy with relief. That evening, back at Adrian's place, he pulled me onto his lap on the couch. I want to talk about something, he said seriously. Okay? I don't want to hide this. Hide us. I know we're both still figuring things out, but I don't want to keep you a secret. My heart swelled. You mean that? Of course I mean it. You're the best thing in my life, Ethan. Why would I hide that? His hands cupped my face. I want to tell our friends, our families. I want everyone to know that you're mine and I'm yours. Yes, I breathed. God, yes. I want that too. I know this is fast. We literally just started this yesterday, but... He paused, seeming nervous. Would you want to move in here? Eventually, I mean? Not right away, but when you're ready? The question stole my breath. You want me to live with you? I want to wake up next to you every morning. Want to come home to you every night? Want to build a life with you? His eyes searched mine. Is that too much too soon? No, it's perfect. You're perfect. I kissed him deeply. And yes, when the time is right, I'd love to live with you. His answering smile was brilliant. The next few weeks passed in a blur of happiness. So complete it sometimes didn't feel real. We told our friends, first starting with Sarah, Adrian's colleague from the hospital, who'd been my friend too. She'd taken one look at us sitting close together on Adrian's couch, hands intertwined, and burst out laughing. Finally, she'd exclaimed, "Do you know how long I've been waiting for you two to figure this out?" You knew? Adrian asked, shocked. Everyone knew. Well, everyone except you two, apparently. She'd hugged us both. I'm so happy for you guys. Reactions from our other friends were similar joy, relief, and a general consensus that we'd been the last to know what everyone else had seen for years. Telling our families was more nerve-wracking. My parents were surprised but supportive. My mom immediately wanting to know when she could have Adrian over for dinner as my official boyfriend. Adrian's parents were a bit more reserved and not unsupportive. Just processing, but by the end of the call, his mother was crying happy tears and demanding we visit soon. Through it all, Adrian was steady, loving, sure. He held my hand through every conversation, kissed me whenever he wanted to, introduced me as his boyfriend with pride in his voice. My physical therapy sessions continued, but now they had a very different quality. Now when Adrian's hands moved over my back, I could arch into his touch without shame. Now when he pulled me into a stretch, he'd steal a kiss if the position allowed. Now when we finished a session, we'd move from the treatment table to his bed, where we'd spend hours learning each other's bodies in entirely new ways. Your back is completely healed. Adrian told me one evening about 6 weeks after we'd first gotten together. Technically, you don't need PT anymore. I was lying on his treatment table and he was doing a final assessment. Does that mean our sessions end? Not unless you want them to. His hands moved to my waist, thumbs stroking my skin. I thought maybe we could repurpose them. Call it preventive maintenance. Preventive maintenance? I laughed. Weekly full body massage, flexibility work, thorough examination. He leaned down and kissed my shoulder. Very thorough examination. I think I can commit to that treatment plan. He helped me sit up, then moved to stand between my legs, his hands framing my face. I still can't believe this is real sometimes. That you're mine. I'm yours, I confirmed, pulling him into a kiss. Always have been. 3 months after that night in the hot tub, I moved into Adrian's apartment. My stuff blended seamlessly with his My Books, finding homes on his shelves. My clothes taking up half his closet. My toothbrush appearing next to his in the bathroom. It felt like coming home. We settled into a routine that felt both domestic and magical. Adrian would wake up early for his morning run. I'd wake to the smell of coffee and the sight of him sweaty and gorgeous in running clothes. We'd have breakfast together, then he'd head to the clinic while I went to classes. In the evenings, we'd cook dinner together. Study side by side, fall into bed tangled around each other. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, he still put me through maintenance PT sessions that usually ended with us naked and breathless. On Friday nights, we'd go to our Thai restaurant, sitting in our usual booth, but now able to hold hands across the table. On weekends, we'd explore the city, visit friends, or just stay home wrapped in each other. I applied to Harbor University's sports psychology program and got accepted with a full scholarship. Adrian's private practice continued to grow, his reputation as a skilled sports medicine doctor spreading. We were building our lives together, and every day felt like a gift. One evening, about 6 months after we'd first gotten together, I came home from class to find Adrian on the balcony staring out at the city. Something in his posture made me pause. "Hey," I said softly, joining him. "What's wrong?" He turned to me, and there was something serious in his expression. "Dr. Morrison called today." My stomach dropped. "About Boston?" "Not exactly. She's opening a new facility here in the city. State-of-the-art sports medicine center. She wants me to head it up." "Adrian, that's incredible." "It is," he agreed. "But it would mean long hours, a lot of responsibility. It could take time away from us, from building our life together." I took his hands in mine. "Is this what you want? This opportunity?" "Yes, but not if it costs me you." "It won't," I said firmly. "We'll figure it out. We'll make it work, because that's what we do. We figure things out together." He pulled me close, burying his face in my neck. "I don't deserve you." "Yes, you do. And I don't deserve you. But here we are anyway, being ridiculously lucky." He laughed against my skin, then pulled back to look at me. "I love you so goddamn much." "I love you too. Now stop being dramatic and call Dr. Morrison back to accept the position." He teased, but he was smiling. "You love it. I really do. As I stand here now, 2 years after that night when everything changed, I can hardly believe this is my life." Adrian is inside, making breakfast while music plays softly through the apartment. In a few months, I'll graduate with my master's degree. Adrian's new facility opened 6 months ago and is already making waves in the sports medicine world. We've talked about getting married, about adopting kids someday, about growing old together. The boy who thought he'd never have his best friend's love has become the man who wakes up next to that love every single morning. "Ethan." Adrian's voice calls from inside. "Breakfast is ready, babe." I head inside, and the sight that greets me still makes my heart skip. Adrian at the stove, spatula in hand, smiling at me like I'm the best thing he's ever seen. "Hey," he says as I wrap my arms around him from behind. "Hey yourself." He turns in my arms and kisses me. Soft and sweet and full of promise. "You know what today is?" he asks. "Tuesday. It's 2 years since our first PT session. Since I told you to get on all fours and had no idea it would change my entire life." I laugh. "Best medical advice you ever gave me, best decision I ever made was letting myself love you. Second best, I correct. Best decision was not going to Boston." "No," he says seriously, his eyes locked on mine. "Best decision was admitting how I felt. Everything else followed from that." He's right, of course. That night in the hot tub, when we finally stopped lying to ourselves and each other, when we finally gave in to what we'd both been feeling, that was when everything changed. That was when we stopped being best friends, pretending, and became best friends in love, and it changed everything. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another emotional journey. Drop a leak if you felt the connection between Adrian and Ethan, and comment below telling me what was your favorite moment from their story. And here's the real question. Should I tell you what happened when they finally got married? When they adopted their first child? When they faced their biggest challenge yet? Let me know in the comments if you want part 2. Your support means everything. See you in the next story. Part 2. 5 years later, Adrian, if you don't stop pacing, you're going to wear a hole in the floor. I looked up from where I'd been nervously walking back and forth across our living room to find Ethan watching me with an amused smile. He was curled up on the couch, looking impossibly relaxed for someone whose entire life was about to change in approximately. Checked my watch, 47 minutes. I'm not pacing, I protested. You've walked past that same spot 17 times in the last 5 minutes. You were counting? Someone has to keep track of your anxiety spirals. He patted the couch beside him. Come here. Sit down before you give yourself a heart attack. I crossed to the couch and collapsed next to him, immediately pulling him into my arms. He came willingly, tucking himself against my chest like he'd done 1,000 times before. The familiar weight of him, the warmth of his body, the scent of his shampoo, it all helped slow my racing heart. What if they don't like us? I asked quietly. Ethan pulled back to look at me, his blue eyes soft with understanding. Adrian, they're going to love you. How could they not? I'm serious, Ethan. What if we get there and they take one look at us and decide we're not what they're looking for? What if, hey, he cupped my face in his hands. Listen to me. We've been through every background check, every home visit, every interview. The agency wouldn't have matched us with her if they didn't think we were perfect for each other. Maya chose us, remember? Out of all the profiles she saw, she chose ours. Maya Rodriguez. 23 years old, 7 months pregnant, and about to make us fathers. The thought still made me dizzy with a combination of terror and overwhelming joy. We'd started the adoption process a year ago. After countless conversations about our future, about what we wanted our family to look like. Ethan had just finished his doctorate in sports psychology and started working with the youth athletic program at the university. I'd been running the sports medicine center for 3 years. We'd both felt ready for the next chapter. The agency had matched us with Maya 2 months ago. She was a college student who'd gotten pregnant unexpectedly and made the brave decision to choose adoption for her baby. When we'd first met her over video call, I'd been so nervous I could barely speak. But Ethan had been amazing, warm, and genuine, and honest about our lives, our relationship, our hopes for parenthood. At the end of that first call, Maya had looked at us with tears in her eyes and said, I want my daughter to grow up knowing she's loved, and I can see she'd be so loved with you too. Her daughter, our daughter. We were about to meet her for the first time in person. To sit down with Maya and her parents and talk about the birth plan, about our hopes for an open adoption, about the future. What if I mess this up? I whispered. You won't. Ethan's voice was certain. You're going to be an incredible father, Adrian. You're patient and caring, and you always put others first. Our daughter's going to be so lucky to have you. To have us, I corrected, kissing him softly. She's lucky to have both of us. Damn right she is. We sat there for a few more minutes, just holding each other until my phone alarm went off, time to leave for the meeting. In the car, Ethan reached over and took my hand. Remember when you thought loving me was the scariest thing you'd ever do? I glanced at him, saw the smile playing at his lips. Yeah, this is scarier, isn't it? So much scarier, I admitted. Loving youth, that was terrifying. But becoming someone's father, being responsible for another human being, that's a whole different level. We're going to be great at this, Ethan said confidently. We've been preparing for a year. We've read all the books, taken all the classes, baby-proofed the apartment. Did we finish baby-proofing the apartment? I interrupted, suddenly panicked. What about that cabinet in the bathroom? And the outlet by the Adrian? Ethan squeezed my hand. Breathe. The apartment is ready. We're ready. Everything is going to be okay. I took a deep breath, then another. He was right. We were ready. The adoption agency's office was in a renovated brownstone downtown. Maya and her parents were already in the conference room when we arrived, and my heart jumped into my throat when I saw her in person for the first time. She was small and young-looking, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and kind brown eyes. Her pregnancy was obvious now, her belly round and pronounced. And when she saw us, her entire face lit up. Adrian, Ethan. She stood, a bit awkwardly, and came over to hug us both. "It's so good to finally meet you in person." "You too," Ethan said warmly. "How are you feeling?" "Tired, excited, terrified." She laughed. All the things. Her parents introduced themselves, Carlos and Patricia. Both warm and welcoming despite the emotional weight of the situation. We all settled around the conference table, our adoption counselor, Jennifer, facilitating the conversation. "So," Maya said, her hands resting on her belly, "I wanted to meet in person because there are some things I want to talk about. About the adoption, about what I'm hoping for." "Of course," I said. "Whatever you need." She took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about the kind of adoption I want. And I know we talked about open adoption, about me being able to see her sometimes, get updates." My chest tightened. Was she changing her mind? "I want that," she continued. "I want to be part of her life, even if it's just a small part. I want her to know who I am, to understand that I chose you for her because I love her, not because I don't." "We want that too," Ethan said gently. "We think it's important for her to know her story, all of it. Including you." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. That means everything." She wiped her eyes. "I also wanted to ask, have you thought about names?" Ethan and I exchanged glances. We'd talked about it extensively, had a whole list of possibilities. But there was one name that kept coming back to us. "We were thinking Lily," I said. "Lily Sophia. Sophia after my grandmother." Okay. Maya's hand went to her mouth. "Lily was my grandmother's name." "Really?" "Yes. She passed away when I was 10. She was the kindest person I ever knew." Maya was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. "It's perfect. She'd be so honored." The rest of the meeting passed in a blur of logistics and emotions. We talked about the birth plan Maya wanted us in the delivery room if we were comfortable with that. We discussed visitation schedules, how we'd handle updates and photos, what role she wanted to play as Lily grew up. By the time we left, I felt like I'd run a marathon. But I also felt something else, a bone-deep certainty that this was right. That Maya was choosing us for the right reasons, that we were all in this together for Lily's sake. "That went well," Ethan said as we drove home. "Really well," I agreed. "She's incredible. So brave, so are you." Ethan reached over and squeezed my knee. "You were perfect in there. I almost threw up twice, but you didn't. That's what counts." When we got home, we went straight to the nursery of the room we'd spent months preparing. The walls were painted a soft lavender with white furniture and cheerful decorations. There was a rocking chair in the corner, shelves full of books we'd been collecting, and a crib that we'd assembled together one Sunday afternoon while arguing about the instructions. Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind as we stood in the doorway. "In 2 months," he said softly, "there's going to be a baby in that crib. Our baby, our daughter." The words still didn't feel real, but they would. Soon, very soon they would. The next 8 weeks were a whirlwind. Maya kept us updated, constantly sending us ultrasound photos, telling us about every doctor's appointment, every kick and movement. We went to her baby shower, met more of her family, continued to build the relationship that would define our daughter's life. I was in the middle of a consultation with an athlete when my phone rang with Maya's ringtone. My heart jumped. She wasn't due for another week. "I have to take this," I told my patient, stepping out of the room. "Hello?" "Adrian." Maya's voice was breathless. "My water just broke. We're heading to the hospital." Everything else fell away. "We'll be right there. 20 minutes, maybe less." "Okay, hurry." I called Ethan as I grabbed my keys, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. He was in a session with a client, but promised to meet me at the hospital as soon as possible. The drive was a blur. I probably broke several traffic laws. All I could think was, she's coming. Lily is coming. We're about to become fathers. I found Maya in a labor and delivery room, her mother by her side. She looked scared and in pain, but when she saw me, relief washed over her face. You made it. Of course I made it.
Ow.
I went to her side, taking her hand. How are you doing? It hurts, she admitted. A lot, but I'm okay. Is Ethan coming? He's on his way. Should be here in 10 minutes. She nodded, then gasped as another contraction hit. I held her hand through it, feeling helpless and awed and terrified all at once. Ethan arrived just as the doctor was checking Maya's progress. He rushed to my side, his hair messy and his eyes wide. Is she? She's doing great, I assured him. Dilated to 6 centimeters. Things are moving fast. The next few hours were intense. We stayed by Maya's side through every contraction, helped her breathe through the pain, held her hands when she needed us to. Her mother was there too, and her father, and the room was full of love and support and anticipation. I'm scared, Maya confessed at one point, when it was just the 4 of us in the room. What if I can't do this? What if you can do this, Ethan said firmly. You're the strongest person I know, Maya, and we're right here with you. You're going to be amazing, I added. And in a few hours, you're going to hold your daughter and know that everything you went through was worth it. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Promise me you'll love her. Promise me you'll give her everything I can't. We promise, we said in unison. When it was finally time to push, the room transformed into organized chaos. The doctor and nurses moved with practiced efficiency, coaching Maya through each push, monitoring both her and the baby, and then, at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, Lily Sophia Cairncross came into the world screaming. The sound of her cry was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. The doctor placed her on Maya's chest immediately, and the look on Maya's face, pure love mixed with heartbreak, was something I'd never forget. She held Lily close, whispering to her, crying as she looked at her daughter for the first and last time as her mother in that way. After a few minutes, she looked up at us with red-rimmed eyes. Do you want to hold her? Ethan and I approached together. The nurse helped transfer Lily into my arms, and the moment I felt her weight, her warmth, looked down at her tiny, scrunched-up face, everything changed. This was my daughter. Our daughter. Hi, Lily, I whispered. Hi, sweetheart. We're your dads, and we love you so much already. Beside me, Ethan was crying openly, his hand gentle on Lily's head. She's perfect, he breathed. Adrian, she's absolutely perfect. I passed her carefully to Ethan, watching as he cradled her against his chest with a tenderness that made my heart ache. He was a natural, murmuring soft words to her. Rocking gently, we spent the next hour trading off holding her, marveling at her tiny fingers and toes, her dark hair, the way she'd stop crying when she heard our voices. Maya watched us with exhausted joy, her mother beside her, both of them crying happy tears. Thank you, I said to Maya at one point, for this gift, for trusting us with her. We're going to spend every day making sure she knows how loved she is, by us and by you. I know you will, Maya said softly. That's why I chose you. The first week home with Lily was the hardest and most beautiful week of my life. Neither Ethan nor I slept more than 2 hours at a stretch. We fumbled through diaper changes and feedings, Googled everything, called our parents in a panic more times than I could count, but we also fell completely, irrevocably in love. I loved the way Lily would curl up on my chest, her tiny body fitting perfectly against me. I loved the way Ethan would sing to her in the middle of the night, his voice soft and soothing. I loved the way we'd catch each other's eyes over her head and smile, exhausted but blissfully happy. Remember when our biggest worry was whether we'd get enough sleep? Ethan said one night at 3 a.m., both of us awake while Lily slept between us in her bassinet. We were so naive, I agreed. I wouldn't change it, though. Any of it. Me neither. I reached across Lily's bassinet to take his hand. 5 years ago, I'd been terrified to admit I loved him. 2 years ago, I'd been terrified to become a father. Now here we were married in everything but the legal sense. We'd had a commitment ceremony a year ago. Parents to a beautiful daughter, building a life so full of love it sometimes overwhelmed me. I love you, I told him. Thank you for this life. For being brave enough to love me back when I finally admitted how I felt. I love you too, Ethan said, his eyes soft in the dim light. And honestly, Adrian, that night in the hot tub, that was just the beginning. Every day since has been us choosing each other. Choosing this, he was right. Love wasn't just the moment of confession. It was every day after every choice to stay, to grow together, to build something beautiful. Lily made a small sound in her sleep. And we both looked down at her, our daughter, our miracle. She's going to have such a good life, Ethan whispered. The best life, I agreed. Because she's going to grow up knowing that love comes in all forms. That family is what you make it. That she was chosen and wanted and treasured from the moment she existed. We should write all this down, Ethan said suddenly. Our story. How we got together, how we found her. So when she's older, she'll know. Yeah, I agreed. We should. Starting with the day I told you to get on all fours in my clinic and tried to pretend my heart wasn't about to explode out of my chest. Ethan laughed softly. Best medical advice you ever gave. Best decision I ever made was letting myself love you openly. And look where it led us. We sat there in the quiet of early morning, our daughter sleeping peacefully between us, and I felt a contentment so complete it was almost painful. This was everything I'd never known I wanted. Everything I'd been too afraid to dream of. And it had all started with a simple choice to be honest about my feelings, to take a risk on love, to trust that sometimes the scariest thing is also the most worthwhile. Thank you, I said to Ethan. For what? For being patient with me? For waiting for me to figure out what you already knew, that we belonged together?
Yeah.
He smiled. I would have waited forever, Adrian. You were always worth the wait. Lily stirred then, beginning to wake up for her next feeding. As we moved into action, practiced now in our routine, I couldn't help but think about how far we'd come, from best friends to lovers to partners to parents. Every step had been terrifying. Every step had been worth it. And as I watched Ethan gently lift Lily from her bassinet, cooing softly to her, I knew with absolute certainty that our story was far from over. This was just the beginning of the next chapter, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take us. Thank you for continuing on this emotional journey with Adrian, Ethan, and now little Lily. If this part touched your heart, please subscribe if you haven't already and hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, what was your favorite moment in part 3? Do you want to see more of their life as new dads? Should I show you their first family vacation? Lily's first words? The story isn't over. There's so much more love, laughter, and life ahead for this beautiful family. Let me know if you want part 4. Your support means the world.
आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। मुस्कुरा के बात करती हो, आदतें खराब करती हो। ना दिखो बेताब लगता हूँ, आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। जिंदगी हसीन लगती है जब ये जालिम प्यार होता है, सांसों में सांस आती है जब तेरा दीदार होता है। नखरा है ऐसा मेरी सरकार का, आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। नखरा इसका टॉप पर आती है टिकटॉक पर, नैनो से है नैन मिलाती, लड़कों की है दिल जलाती, पिंडी में है चर्चा इसका, नीरा जितना खर्चा इसका। मैंने बोला इसको मेट्रो में बिठाऊंगा, कैपिटल ले जाऊंगा, F7 भी घुमाऊंगा, मोनाल भी दिखाऊंगा, सेंटोरस भी ले जाऊंगा। आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। मौसमों की बेकरारी को आजमा के जान जाओगी, हिज्र की आजमाइश में एक दिन पहचान जाओगी। कहना है मेरे दिल बेकरार का, आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार